Sometimes trying to get into an anime can be a huge time investment, and sometimes people will recommend you an anime and be like, oh, it gets better around episode 50. Well, honestly, I don't usually have the time or patience to commit to super long anime anymore, so I find myself searching out the best anime that are on the shorter side. If you can relate to any of that, then I've got 10 great short anime that you can watch, which cover a bunch of different genres and moods, so you're bound to find at least one that sounds good to you. Some of these anime are pretty popular, but I won't be recommending the all too obvious super popular choices for a list like this. So before I get into it, I'll give a quick honorable mention to Death Note, Cowboy Bebop, Gurren Lagann, and Neon Genesis Evangelion. If you've already watched those classics, then check out these 10. Starting off our list is Deca-dence. This is an anime I'm surprised I didn't see more discussion about. It has a really incredible first episode that sets up a world that feels similar to Attack on Titan. The last remnants of humanity are surviving inside a mobile fortress as mysterious monsters regularly attack, and people have to fend them off with the interesting weapons that they've invented. So yeah, people were pretty excited after the first episode and were hyping it up, but what kinda killed the momentum is the twist reveal at the end of the first episode that came after doing so much setup to this intriguing world and premise. The twist being that this world actually turns out to be a playground for these robot people who live out in the orbit of the Earth. These robot people remotely plug into human bodies and fight the monsters alongside the real humans, and think of all this as some sort of game. The plot then jumps back and forth between these two worlds as many interesting mysteries unravel, and honestly I thought it was really cool and told a satisfying and meaningful story. However, the problem was that people were so excited about the initial fake-out premise that when the rug was pulled out from under them to reveal this weird new premise and the odd new art style for the robot characters, I think a lot of people lost interest. There's so much to enjoy here though, the incredible action and world building, the sense of mystery and intrigue, and the well-written character development. So check this one out because I think it deserves more love for its ambitious story and its incredible animation. If you're not so into the modern anime style like Deca-dence, then give Trigun a shot. Trigun is a classic 90s anime, so it has that great cell painting animation that has stood the test of time visually and stylistically. This beautiful art conveys the story of Vash the Stampede, someone who's introduced as having a $60 billion double dollar bounty on their head and is said to have wiped an entire town off the map to earn that high bounty. So this setup initially paints them in a harsh light, but when you actually see them, there's someone who tries to avoid violence at all costs and never kills an opponent. Instantly, this anime does a great job of sparking intrigue about Vash's origins as to how he got so powerful and regarded as dangerous, when in reality they're such a sweetheart. And then things only get better as we're introduced to the other two main characters, Millie and Meryl, who join the cast as they're assigned to watch over Vash because of all the chaos his incredibly high bounty has been causing. These three characters have a really fun dynamic, and over the course of the show they really grow and develop in meaningful ways, and over time the mystery behind Vash's origins slowly starts to build a really interesting overarching narrative. This sci-fi western has a lot of dumb fun moments, but it has a lot of mystery, intrigue, and emotional moments that make it something really special. So check this one out if you love 90s anime and want a gripping space western with great characters. Dennou Coil is a story about an alternate reality game, something similar to Pokemon Go but much more advanced. The story centers around a group of kids who start to uncover mysterious glitches and strange things happening within the game. So a lot of the show feels like a gripping sci-fi mystery where the different mysterious aspects of the game are explored, such as entering these trippy glitchy dimensions or seeing the game affect the real world in strange ways. As more of what's really going on is revealed, the story becomes surprisingly emotionally impactful, and you see the main characters grow and change in really touching ways. This show is surprisingly mature. Even though its characters are mostly kids, it doesn't shy away from tackling difficult subjects like loneliness, loss, and struggling to connect with others. The characters are really compelling, and seeing them develop emotionally as simultaneously they unravel a really intriguing mystery makes for a story that will grip you from start to finish. So check this one out if you want to see an intriguing sci-fi mystery that does a good job of balancing being heartwarming, thrilling, and emotionally impactful. Number 6 is a poignant critique of capitalism, all wrapped in an exciting and thrilling mysterious plot. It takes place in a world that's separated into districts that form a rigid hierarchy. The district known as Number 6 is where people live in ignorant bliss of the oppression of all of the other districts. We start by following a character named Shion who lives there happily, but when they meet the other main character Nezumi, the facade surrounding their supposedly idyllic world starts to crumble. Nezumi was raised outside of Number 6 and has had a difficult life that was basically the polar opposite of Shion. As their stories become entwined, they start to uncover mysterious murders, political intrigue, and the truth behind the system of societal brainwashing that supports Number 6. At first, these two seem like they couldn't be more different, but the story really develops them well over time. Shion has to learn to let go of their sheltered views and fight back against the propaganda that they were taught for their entire life. Meanwhile, Nezumi has to learn to embrace a new friendship after being so guarded from all the trauma they've been through. Shion and Nezumi's relationship is really well developed and is a key part of why this show works so well besides having a gripping, mysterious narrative. So check this one out if you like dystopian stories that serve as societal critiques and want to see a really compelling character relationship. Okay, Samurai Flamenco is kind of a funny one to recommend because the first 8 episodes are just a pretty solid gag anime about a clueless guy trying to become a superhero despite having no powers. But then the show takes a drastic turn from that point on, and it's like it's an entirely different anime. It has some of the weirdest and craziest plot developments I've ever seen, and because of this, I recommend going into this one with as little spoilers as possible. I'd even recommend skipping the opening theme song because it spoils some of where the story goes. I'd say it's reminiscent of Gurren Lagann in how it seems to always have a plot twist ready to take things one level deeper just when you think it couldn't get any weirder. This show is pretty wacky and lighthearted a lot of the time, but it goes to some surprisingly dark places, and most of the characters have flaws that are explored in interesting ways. For a superhero story, it's actually pretty focused on the characters and not just being a spectacle without substance. It's a surprisingly mature story that manages to balance taking itself seriously and being a straight-up comedy series really well. So check this one out if you like stories that have several layers of twists and reveals and at the same time want something that's really weird and funny. Michiko Hatchin is a unique anime in almost every aspect. You have the setting of South America, the soundtrack that's greatly influenced by that setting, the unorthodox yet stunningly beautiful art style, and the vibrant personalities of its characters. The two main characters being Michiko and Hatchin, whose stories become intertwined when Michiko comes to save Hatchin from her abusive foster family. Michiko is Hatchin's mom, and together they set out to find Hatchin's father on a wild journey that has them on the run from Hatchin's foster family and the police. This action-packed journey can really be over the top and goofy a lot of the time, but the show knows when to take itself seriously and handles a lot of dark topics with more maturity than I expected. Most of the adventure is very character-focused, and the plots are often driven by the different interesting people Michiko and Hatchin meet along their journey. We get a lot of different vignettes that are used to explore a lot of difficult aspects of life and interesting themes. This is an adventure story where you shouldn't get overly focused on the end goal. Take your time with this one because the main appeal is all the great little stories and characters we get to see along the way. It's kind of similar to Samurai Champloo or Cowboy Bebop in that regard, and hey, a lot of people who worked on those shows worked on this one as well, so maybe that's where that storytelling style comes from. So check this one out if you're a fan of anime like Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and want a fun adventure that still deals with mature topics and themes. Everything is more exciting in space. Take, for example, cleaning up litter. That's pretty cool, helping the environment, but put that in space and now you've got a really interesting anime premise. Okay, but seriously, Planetes is an anime about a team of people who clean space debris, and somehow that seemingly boring concept becomes an incredibly interesting backdrop to tell really well-developed character-driven stories. The show is told through episodic stories while taking some time to slowly build its overarching plots, but for the most part, its main focus is on developing its characters. Over the course of the series, the crew form deeper bonds, and everyone's given the time to develop and grow to become really interesting. As the show goes on, it gradually starts to focus more on its main character, Hoshino, and their desire to travel to the furthest reaches of space. They become quite a deep character despite seeming brash and headstrong at the beginning of the show, which is a cool journey to see. So yeah, like I've said, the show is mostly focused on character development, but it can also be exciting and action-packed. And then they also balance that with being emotionally impactful and profound, or sometimes chill to the point of almost being slice of life, which makes for a really unique atmosphere for the anime. So check this one out if you want to see a unique story in the sci-fi genre that prioritizes characters and themes over anything else. The first episode of Serial Experiments Lain is titled Weird, and that pretty much sums up every episode. No, I'm joking, but this anime is a total mind bender and goes to some really confusing and weird places. But all this weirdness serves to effectively tell an intriguing story about the influence of technology on modern society. This is one of the most interesting takes on what increased interconnectivity through technology does to society, and it was made all the way back in 1998. The amount of things this show eerily correctly predicts is matched probably only by Metal Gear Solid 2. This story itself focuses on a girl named Lain as she uncovers the disturbing mysteries surrounding the Wired, which is basically this show's strange and surreal version of the internet. The more she discovers about the Wired and herself, the deeper this rabbit hole goes. As the show goes on, tons of cryptic lore and mysteries all slowly come together to tell one of the weirdest yet most profound stories I've ever seen in an anime. This is definitely one that's worth a rewatch when you finish it. It's just one of those stories you can really get lost in with the countless interpretations you could take away. So check this one out if you like cryptic stories that will leave you thinking and like anime with eerie atmospheres. Satoshi Kon is most known for the incredible feature films they directed, but Paranoia Agent, which is really the only anime series they directed, is just as good. The series is kind of episodic, where it switches which character perspective tells the story in each episode. The through line connecting these stories is the theme of paranoia and the mass hysteria surrounding a character called Shonen Bat. In the first episode, we follow a woman who has created a character that has had a huge impact on pop culture, something similar to Hello Kitty. She's under intense pressure to create another big hit, and when she reaches the peak of feeling this pressure, she is suddenly attacked in the night by Shonen Bat, a young boy with golden rollerblades and a bent metal baseball bat. Whether this actually happened or was a delusion created to escape from the pressure this woman felt is ambiguous. The media runs with this story though, and as the idea spreads more and more, attacks from Shonen Bat keep being reported. In a twisted kind of way, this woman has had her next big hit that influences pop culture with her design of Shonen Bat. Like Satoshi Kon's other works, there's a focus on exploring people's perception of reality and how popular ideas and media can affect that. The idea that Shonen Bat could just be something people are subconsciously projecting onto their own issues is a really interesting one. In each episode, further themes are explored through the myriad of diverse characters, and the story goes to a lot of dark and disturbing places. However, it's always done to examine interesting ideas and themes about these well-written characters. You get a lot of variety in the different vignettes of each episode as the paranoia and mystery develops further and further. So check this one out if you're a fan of movies like Perfect Blue and you like surreal psychological thriller stories. Ping Pong is my favorite sports anime by a huge margin. It's based on a manga of the same name by my favorite author, Taiyo Matsumoto, and this adaptation was directed by one of my favorite directors, Masaki Yuasa, so it's kind of a given that it's so high on my list. The first standout thing to mention about Ping Pong is definitely its art style, which brilliantly brings the unorthodox style of the manga to life, and even mimics some of the unique paneling of the manga by having these stylish snapshot sequences. It uses so many interesting stylistic choices to turn the sport of ping pong into an incredibly thrilling and exciting battle of skill. In fact, even the more mundane moments of the show are really stylish too and use creative shot compositions to show you more about the characters. There's so much substance behind all this style though. Ping Pong tells a character-driven, engaging story that explores the nature of competitive sports and the people who play them deeper than any other sports anime I've seen. Every character changes over time in interesting ways, and their well-crafted stories elevate this beyond just being a story of training and tournaments. Even pretty minor characters get time in the spotlight and make this world feel real and very well thought out. So check this one out if you like anime with unique art styles and like a character exploration focused story. Okay, so there's 10 great anime that are on the shorter side. Let me know your thoughts on the list and any other recommendations for short anime I should check out in the comments. I plan to do more videos on anime in the future, so subscribe if you want to see that. If you're more of a manga person, check out my manga recommendations videos that I'll link to in the description. That's all I've got for now, so thanks so much for watching and I hope you have a great day.